This is Mark, and it's chapter 14, and we're going to read from verse 42 through to 51. You remember the Lord Jesus is on in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's been praying while his disciples have been sleeping, and he begs them to, can you not just pray with me 1 hour? It's interesting, I think I mentioned about Jesus calling, when he's saying to the Father, Abba, Father, if it's possible, take this thing from me. And it's the only time in the scriptures where we have a record of Jesus calling the Father Abba. And the other day I was just looking through the story of Abraham when he went up to sacrifice Isaac. And Isaac says, Father, here's the wood and here's the fire and here's the knife, but where is the lamb? And it's the parallel where Jesus is, it's almost like Jesus saying, here's the cross. Where is the lamb? And he says, not my will, but your will be done. Just as Isaac submitted to his father when they went up onto the mountain of Moriah. Anyway, so Jesus is there and he says to his disciples, are you still sleeping and resting? It's enough. The hour has come. Behold, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up. Let us be going. Behold, the one who betrays me is at hand. Immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, comes up accompanied by a crowd with swords and clubs, who were from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Now he who was betraying him had given them a signal, saying, whomever I kiss, he is the one. Seize him and lead him away under guard. And after coming, Judas immediately went to him, saying, Rabbi, and kissed him. They laid hands on him and seized him. But one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus said to them, have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me, as you would against a robber? Every day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But this has taken place to fulfill the scriptures. And they all left him and fled. A young man who was following him, wearing nothing but a linen sheet over his naked body, and they seized him. And he pulled free of the linen sheet, and he escaped naked. So this is the arrest of the Lord Jesus. Judas comes, he kisses Jesus, and Judas had come with a great crowd. Elsewhere it says it's a battalion. So it must have been hundreds of soldiers who came to arrest the Lord Jesus. And someone cuts off the high priest's ear, and Jesus says to them, you've come out to me, you treated me like a robber. Every day I was as a rabbi, I was in the temple, I was preaching, I was teaching. And if you had a problem with it, why didn't you come to me then? And in a way they did come to him, but they could never argue with him. He always came back to them with wisdom. So they came at night and took him like a robber. And Jesus says it's to fulfill what was written in the scriptures. And I was just pondering, what was it? And Jesus says, you're coming out to me with as if I was a robber. And in Isaiah 53, it speaks and says that Jesus was named among the transgressors. Jesus was treated like a criminal here by the chief priests and the scribes and the Pharisees, and they came for him. And they took him away. And it says, and they all left him and fled. And then we have this curious little incident. A young man dressed in nothing but a linen sheet over his naked body, and they seize him, and he escapes by throwing off the linen sheet and running away. What a humiliation for this young man. Many people think this is Mark speaking of himself. But it goes to show that there were many others. There were others, it's probably not many others, but there would have been others there, apart from the 12, but they all fled. And why was he in a sheep? Because the disciples, when they went up onto Gethsemane, they would sleep there. And perhaps it was late. He was a young man. He perhaps had already turned in. And when all this was happening, the disciples had scarpered, and he was left there. And the soldiers tried to get him, but he ran away. He left his clothes there. And Jesus was alone with his accusers.